So if you don't know the difference between client and server, then trust me, you're missing something huge, okay? And saying it better for you to understand, if you don't know the difference between a server script and a local script, then you're missing something huge, okay? And because of this, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be explaining you the difference between client and server. I won't be scripting here, I guess, so you can just relax a little bit and watch me explaining it. So first of all, let's join into the game, and let me first off explain what the client is and then what the server is, and making you some compares on how you can know exactly what the difference between these two is. So first of all, when taking a look to the top and we are on home, we can see there is a button called current client. This basically means I'm right now on the client side. What is the client side? Now the client side is a player server. Now you can imagine it that every time a player joins, a new server will be created only for him, only for the player, okay? So this right now here is my own server, my character server, okay? And if someone new joins, he will also take his own server. Now let me make you some differences between the client and the server. Now I told you that this right now is my own server. So let's say I wanna, as example, make the base plate transparency to 1, okay? And let's also delete the texture so it will be invisible. And now, as you can see, it's invisible on my side. But let's go to the server side and see if it's invisible or not. So we are on the server side, and as you can see, it's not invisible. Why is that so? As you can see, the texture is still here and the transparency is still set to 0. Why is that so? Because we changed it on the client side, so we changed it on the player side, on my side, okay, on my server side. So on the server side, nothing happened. Now, since I changed it on this side, when a new player joins, it's not like the base plate will be invisible for him. No, it will be visible. Why? Because as I said, every player has his own server, okay? And as you can see, I can make here everything that works on the server can work on the client, but you need to make some specific things on the server for things to actually work. As example, if you are writing an ability, then the hitbox should be on the server. Why? Because if I say here, if someone touches my hitbox, then he should take 5 damage, then this will be only applied on the client side. So this just means he will only take on my side, so on my game, 5 damage. But on his side, on his own server, he's still at full life, you know? And that's how the difference between client and server is. Now let me make some few more explanations. So as example, let's add now on the server side just a part, okay? We added a part. Now let's go to the client and see if the part is there. And as you can see, I'm on the client side, and yes, the part is there. Why? Because I added the part on the client, and the client applies to every single player. How can you imagine this at best? If I now place a part, this part will be placed for every single player's server, okay? This is how it works. That's why the part is here. Now let's say I add a part here on my client side. Now I got a question for you. Will I be able to see the part on the server side? And do you know the answer? Let's see. No, I won't. Why? Because I added this part on the client side, so on my own server, but not on the server side, okay? So this is how it actually works. And the main reason why this is so important is, as an example, you have a cash system, a money system, okay? Pretty basic. So here I got my cash value, it's right now set to value. Its value is set right now to 0. So let's now say you make a local script where you just point in if the player player presses the input F, like he presses F on his keyboard, then his cash value should get +5, okay? +5. So now, as you can see, my value is right now +5. Now I got a question for you. Do you think if I go now to the server side and check if the value is 5, Will it be 5 or will it be still 0? Do remember, we are doing this right now on the client side. Do you have the answer? Now the answer is quite simple. Okay, my comma is just down. So now the answer is quite simple. When taking a look at cache, it's to 0. Why? Because I changed it on the client. Why this is so important is there are some specific things you can only do on the client side. As an example, a text button. Kinda basic, right? When we mostly want to start a function, whenever we click on the text button, then we usually do this on a local script, right? Now let's say I want to make a function where I just say script.parent.mouse button one click connect a function. Okay, what this basically does is whenever I press this button, it connects a function. Okay, and now let's say game.players.local player cache that value equals to plus equals to 1. Okay, now what we basically did here is whenever I press the button, a function should start, and I want in the function to happen that the player, okay, the local player, the game.player, that local player always means that one player that did something, that started the function. So my case is the player that pressed the mouse button one click. Okay, so for my case, the player that pressed the mouse button 1, his cache value should get increased by 1. Okay, so if we do just such a basic script, now go into the game, and now let's open my cache value. There it is. Now if I click on the text button, as you can see, my value gets increased by 1. I can now keep spamming and it's keep getting increased. Okay, kind of basic, right? So if I go now to the server side and check if it's changing, then no, it's obviously not. Okay, now let me show you what issues this can make. So now let's make an example where we say whenever this part gets touched, a function should start happen. Now as you can see, I wrote this script on the client side and this on the server side, and now I will be showing you the mistake about this. Okay, so let's say script.parent.touched connect a function hit. What this basically does is it connects a function every time the part gets hit. And now let's say local hit player equals to game.players.get player from character. Oh my god, what I did there. Get player from character. Now hit.parent. Let me just first check if the thing that hit the part is a player. So to do this, what you're gonna do is if hit player, then now we can start a function. What this basically means is we just local the thing that touched our part. We just try to get from its player. Okay, because the thing that touched the part is a character, and if I go into the game and touch something, it's my character, not my player that touched something. Okay, so I get the player from the character. Okay, and now I check if the thing that touched the part have a player. Okay, if it has a player, then something should start happen. And what will happen for my case is, let's say hit player but let's say that cache that value equals to +1. Okay, so now let's load into the game, and actually if I touch now the part and check my value on the client side, then you should already know on what should happen, if it should get increased or stay the same. Let's see. As you can see, it's increased. Why? because we wrote the script on the server, so it will apply for every single player that touched this part, okay? And as you can see, it also applied on my client side, okay? So now let's say I click on the text button. Remember my current value, it's on 5. Now let's say I click on the text button. As you can see, it gets increased. Now it's 15. Let's go to the server and check how much it's there. So going to the server and checking my cache value, it's still 5. Why? Because when I every time presses the button, a local script runs, and the local scripts only runs for my server and not for all the servers. So my cache value on the server side will always stay the same, okay? And this is the issue about this. And the best way you can fix this is whenever, now here comes remote events in play. I really hope you understand on how they do work. Let's just insert a script like this, and now adding it to here. Now we say whenever the mouse button 1 gets clicked, or whenever our mouse button or text button gets clicked, then what we're gonna do now is let's insert a remote event below replicate storage. What this remote event basically does is it fires informations between the client and between the server. Now as I told you, this function here, that clicking on the text button, let's say I wrote the script, I made the script like as a server script, and then say there that whenever the button gets clicked, then the player should get +1. If I do this on the server script, then what would happen is quite simple. It will apply for every single player. So whenever player 1 clicks on the text button here, player 2, player 3, player 4 will also get the +1 cache value, you know? That's why we need to make this a local script, okay? So let me just go back again. That's why this needs to be a local script. So we only fire the function for that one player who clicked on it, and we need to make it then to the server, so it will update on the server side his cache value, okay? That's how it basically works. What we're now gonna say is game.replicate storage that remote event fire server. What this now does is it fires a function to the server, okay? And the server now collects it with game.replicate storage at remote event that on server event connect a function, and we will set as the first parameter our player, because what this basically does on the server, it now collects the function we just sent to the server, and it collects it with the player who just let even this function send. What this basically means is this server here sends a function, it sends a function to the server with the player that clicked on this button, okay? And this one here on the server side, it collects the function with the player that clicked on the button, okay? And now we just can say player that cache that value plus equals to 1. So now let's try this out if it's changed on the server side. So let's actually open this first on the client side. Now if I click there, as you can see, it gets increased to like 12. Now let's see if this also applied for the server, because before it did not apply to the server. Now let's see if it works, and yeah, it did. Now it's on both sides 12, okay? And now we can now make everything to the server and client, and this is the difference between them. And trust me guys, if you don't know this difference, then you are having a huge mistake right now, a huge problem, okay? So thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you learned something new, and yeah, that's basically it. See you all tomorrow. Goodbye.